All right, so after much speculation of what would happen in the featherweight division, we finally got clarity over this past week. Dana White went on Instagram Live instead of just doing the normal Instagram video, which I thought was interesting, and announced that Ilia Topuria would be, in fact, moving up to lightweight, vacating his 145-pound title. And Dana said that Topuria feels that has he feels he's done everything he could at featherweight, beating Volkanovski and Holloway, and that he simply doesn't want to make the weight anymore. Which, if he struggles to make that weight, then fair enough to Taporia. Um, AJ, what was your first reaction to seeing the 45 strap vacated?
I mean, I didn't say I called it, but I mean, we're the best predictors on YouTube. If you haven't told, you'll see as a later news. Um, but I was kind of talking to my brother when we got the announcement that something big was coming, and I said I just feel like it's going to be Volkan Lopez. Because it's been speculated. I said it's going to be Volkan Lopez or Volkan Taporia. Um, so I'm not too surprised. I mean, I'm surprised by it, but I'm not I figured this was coming sooner or later. I mean, I'm glad he did it because now the featherweight division is a little bit more interesting because there's more matchups now. It's not just like, oh, Ilya is just going to run that division. Um, and I don't know about the weight cut. Like, I don't know. I think I mean, not he's like what? He's like 5'5". I think he can make the 145 weight cut. He does not walk around bigger than Islam and bigger than these other guys. He just doesn't. He would look fat. We would tell if he could. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the weight cut is that hard, but I don't know. Um, it'll be interesting to see who they match him with because it's not Islam. I knew it wasn't going to be Islam because, like Dana said, if it was Islam, we would have
Well,
known by.
well, here's the thing. I don't think it's out of the question that it could be Islam first. I
No,
think
Dana said that if it was Islam, we would have said it by now that that's what was next. And I figured
I
that too
understand that.
when he
I
said it.
understand that, but I still feel like there's a decent chance that it still could be Taporia because at the end of the day, that's still the biggest fight they can make at lightweight right now is Islam versus Taporia. There's no one's gonna argue that Islam versus the winner of Gaethje and Hooker is bigger than Islam and Taporia. That's just not never gonna be the case. Um,
Yeah.
so from that standpoint, yes, I do understand that there could be signs of it not being the first fight for Taporia since it wasn't announced the night of him vacating the title. But at the same time, if you're the UFC and you're thinking down the line of whenever Islam and Taporia will be ready, I mean, there's you always want to put on the biggest fights possible. And at 55 right now, that is the biggest fight possible. Then there's no question about that. Can you at least agree on that?
I mean, yeah, it's um, it's definitely the biggest fight. I'm not gonna say it's not, but especially with, I don't think it'd be the first fight to make. Again, I think it would have said it already. Also think that I don't think they're gonna book Islam yet for anybody. They're gonna wait and see. They're gonna have guarantee they'll make Ilya fight someone first, and Islam will wait because Islam's been pretty vocal about him not wanting to fight and have his fight record and his legacy and be, oh, he's only beating up on featherweights. So I think he wants Ilya to prove himself first before he lets him fight for the lightweight title. So and again, I mean, it's up there. This and Aspinall Jones is those are the two biggest fights you could make right now in the UFC, and it's not close. But I think they're gonna make Ilya fight someone first before he gets to challenge Islam.
I do think
Because
I could see it. I could see it, but the question is I think there's really only one real option if that's going to be the case, and I think the only real option is Charles Oliveira because
yeah, I mean, what Charles Oliveira? Why do you think that's the only option?
so the only reason I think Oliveira would be the most sensible option is because one, I don't think they would want. Dustin Poirier's retirement fight to be him going up against Topuria and having the potential of Topuria knocking out three legends in the UFC in a row and doing that potentially to Dustin in a retirement fight scenario. I don't think they want to put Dustin in that situation for what they know is going to be his last fight. And then with Arman Sarukian, you have sort of the Georgian roots there. They both share those Georgian roots. So I don't think they'll want to fight each other. So that's what makes me say yes, while it wasn't announced on the night, I get why there would be some pause to think that the Islam fight wouldn't be first. But at the same time, with it being surefire the biggest fight they can make and the lack of options they would have of contenders because of what I just laid out, I think it just makes the most sense, even though it wasn't announced. So we'll see what happens. I wouldn't be all the way surprised either way, but I would be, to put it this way, I would be a little bit more surprised than not if Topuria's first fight was not against Islam Makhachev for the undisputed title.
I mean, that's fair. Again, I can see that happening. Um, I I don't know, and I don't think because I mean they haven't said that they wouldn't fight each other, so I could definitely see Arman and Ilya that fight that fight could happen because I mean even in the 311 week, Arman and Marab weren't too like buddy like that, so I don't know. I could see the Arman fight happening just because they want Arman to fight someone else, and I mean that would be I would love to see that fight. I think it'd be insane. Um, or Charles, or unfortunately, I hate to see it, but I mean, Dustin's he wants to fight. He wants to fight Ilya for some reason. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Islam, but I really don't think that's where they're going to go. Again,
Here's what
like
I think is going to happen. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think Ilya is going to fight for the title. Even though it hasn't been announced yet, I think that's what's going to happen. And then I think they're going to do Arman versus Charles too. That'll be a co-main event. It'll be 5 rounds on some big card, maybe MSG, maybe International Fight Week. We'll see. But I think that that's the direction they're headed. Dustin Poirier, I have no clue where this puts him. But says something about Poirier. This is giant news that he's vacating this title, and the argument is that Ilya seemed satisfied with what he had done at 45, even though you still had guys like Diego Lopez coming up, Movsar Evloev coming up. So whether he's done enough at 45 or not doesn't matter anymore. He's officially a 55er, and now we just got to get the pen to the paper and see who he fights first. So I'm excited to see what will happen, and it can only get bigger from here, I feel like.
Yeah. I agree. But with the news of Ilya vacating, we need a featherweight champion. And that's where these two okay, get away. That's where these two men step in. We got Volk versus Diego Lopez for the undisputed featherweight, the main event for UFC 314 in Miami. I'm so excited because I am a big Diego Lopez fan. My good buddy Diego Lopez.
Instagram story viewer Diego Lopez.
Instagram story liker. Instagram story liker. So yeah, and again, I love Volk too. So potentially we're getting Volk as champion again. The worst part of this fight is that one of them has to lose, in my opinion.
Something that we didn't highlight talking about Ilya that I think we should before we somewhat dive into this fight. You know who's got to feel the worst about all of this news?
Max Holloway.
Max Holloway. Max Holloway, you just lost your featherweight title fight to Topuria in dramatic fashion, and now you're in a tricky spot because you've got Ilya, who just beat you, moving up in the division to the division that you moved up to, and then at the division you were at before where you made your name, potentially the guy that beat you 3 times is going to become the champion again. So really tough situation for Max Holloway. And now that I brought up Holloway, I think that would be the perfect retirement fight for Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I kind of think I don't know. I could see the UFC do Ilya and Poirier put it in New Orleans. That'd be a big fight.
But
Um,
we have a vacant
yeah,
title, and Volkanovski and Diego Lopez stepping up to the plate. This was the only two options that they could do for this title fight. None of the other fighters in the division were more deserving, and it's going to be really interesting to see where Volk is at the age of 36, coming off of what will be a very long layoff, the longest of probably his career.
coming 2 knockouts,
Yeah, so
right?
I'm really, yeah,
No.
two
Yeah,
knockouts.
2 knockouts. Yeah, 2 knockouts.
Yeah, Islam on 10 days notice and Taporia last February.
Taporia literally 3 months, 2 months after getting knocked out by Islam, getting knocked out. Rough. The chin's cracked open. Poor Volk. Love to see him become champ again, but I don't know. I kind of want to see Diego Lopez champ more. I'm a big Diego Lopez fan.
I could care less who wins. I'm just excited for it. Both of these guys always bring action. Diego Lopez fights at such a high pace. The grappling is always really entertaining with him, and he has real punching power that people don't talk about a lot going into his fights. They talk about the grappling, but I mean, Diego Lopez can crack, and if you're Volk, you gotta be prepared for those first 5 minutes or so because Diego Lopez is known to blitz. He's known to get early finishes, crack people early. He did so at UFC 300. He did so at the Sphere against Ryan Ortega. So I'm really
Hey, one
interested. I
brother
think
didn't
the
do it against was Dan Ige. Shout
no
out
shout out Dan Ige.
on
Um,
2 hours notice.
yeah. But I think the biggest question out of this title fight is where is Volk at after this layoff at the age of 36? That's what I'm most curious in. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like after that second Ilya fight, he was definitely overlooked. He's still a very, very good UFC fighter. I think he can easily win this fight and be champ again.
That's
So I
an
think that,
understatement. A very, very good UFC fighter is an understatement for Alex
yeah, but
Volkanovski.
I just feel like people kind of forgot, man, about they forgot. They forgot Volk after he got knocked out twice, brutally. But I I'm excited. I think, like I said, I feel like he can very much win this belt back. And I mean, brutalize Diego Lopez like he does every other one of his victims. Max Holloway, Brian Ortega, Yair. But also, I don't know. Diego Lopez, I mean, very, very, very good fighter right now. One of my picks last year for potential fighter of the year. He was 3-0 last year. Um, I love Diego Lopez, man. He's so fun. He was just training a couple like last month here in Oklahoma at OSU. He was training wrestling, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, man.
See if he uses any of that in his first title opportunity. One thing I noticed on the whenever we pull up the fight card on ESPN, are you shocked or surprised at all by the betting line? Volkanovski at a slight minus 160 favorite. Diego Lopez coming in at plus money at plus 135. Are you shocked by that at all?
I mean, a little bit. I would thought Diego might be the favorite just because he is younger. And Volk coming off a 2 fight loss streak, both by knockout pretty early. One in the first round, other one in the second round. Um, and year layoff at age 36. But I'm not. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Alexander Volkanovski, the greatest featherweight of all time, who is still very much able to compete with the top of the division. I mean, I thought besides Ilya, um, I mean, he pretty much beats everyone else in this division. Maybe Lucas will see about Diego Lopez, but I mean, like everyone else in the featherweight division, I mean, Volkanovski easily beats.
We'll have to see it come to fruition coming
Yeah,
this April. But
I'm so
that's not the only
excited.
fight that was announced on this UFC 314 card. It is a stacked card, and we've got a 5-round co-main event between Michael Chandler and Patty the Batty Pimblett. Chandler coming in as a plus 120 underdog. Are you surprised by that, Andy? I'm a little surprised by that.
Really? No, I'm not surprised. I figured to give. I mean, Patty is on a tear right now. He's undefeated in the UFC. You got Michael Chandler, who is very much defeated in the UFC. But no hate to Michael Chandler. I love watching Michael Chandler fight. He's like the exact opposite of Sean Strickland, man. Like when Michael Chandler does, he's going to war. It's gonna. I mean, I've never seen Michael Chandler in a boring fight, even when
No,
he's
you never,
losing.
and you never will either.
Yeah, even when he's losing, it's still the most entertaining fight of the night.
Yeah.
So I expect fireworks from this one. They do like to chat a little something here and there. They saw after it was announced, Michael Chandler had put the wig on and was in the
I was going to
shadow
ask you
box.
about that.
Yeah. But I'm not surprised. I mean, Patty, younger, on a tear right now, just beating everybody in his path. And I mean, the UFC very much wants Patty Pimblett to skyrocket up the ranking because he's very marketable. A lot of people like him. I like Patty. He's such. I mean, I like both these guys too. Patty is such a likable dude. I think he's funny. Very entertaining fighter. So no, I'm not surprised by the betting odds.
I was just a tad bit just because this is a big step up in competition for Patty Pimblett. Obviously, his last opponent was King Green and someone who's always floated around towards the bottom of the rankings or right outside the rankings. So coming in against Michael Chandler, who has fought all of the guys at 155, although losing to a bunch of them. I was a little surprised seeing that minus 140 number just because of how big of a jump it would seem to be in competition, but it does make sense when you look at it. I mean, Chandler, 38 years old, coming off of a few losses in a row, in the rematch to Oliveira, and then the Poirier fight, and then the Gaethje fight. Um, so it's warranted, I would say. Patty's earned the right to be a favorite in a fight like this, but I mean, as someone who bets from time to time, seeing that plus 20 number next to Chandler in this fight is very tempting to me. But I think this is the perfect booking for 155 right now for both of these fighters. Two big names in the company. One of them older, another one being a prospect, essentially. And both having that marquee status in the company. I think this is going to be an immediate fight of the night contender, depending on how it goes with the grappling situations. On the feet, there's still a lot of questions surrounding Patty. He does have power. We've seen it. We saw it in his UFC debut. But I mean, Chandler can crack, and pretty much almost every fight he's been in, he's at least wobbled or hurt his opponent, whether he's ended up winning the fight or losing. So I'm interested to see. Patty's always talked about how he's a scouser and that scousers don't get knocked out. So I'm interested to see how Chandler kind of looks at that angle of the fight, and he's going to be looking for that chin. So I'm super excited for that.
Yep, I'm excited to watch it too. You said about the betting odds. Again, I like Michael Chandler. He's a cool dude. I would have picked him to beat Conor McGregor when they were gonna fight right here at 303. But I mean, looking at that again, it's Michael Chandler. He's kind of stupid when it comes to fights. I'm not gonna lie. He kind of just does whatever in there. He's like Dreykus, but worse, if you know what I mean. But again, still gonna go Michael Chandler via freedom, man. Via America. But yeah, no, super excited. I was super excited when this got announced. You actually called it when when
Yeah, we were on the phone because we had both gotten the notification from the UFC saying that there was going to be a big announcement from Dana soon, and obviously we'd been talking about that and anticipating this Miami card for a while. So
yeah.
we were kind of debating what would happen. I didn't think this would be the co-main event. I thought there would be maybe a women's title fight or the flyweight title fight as the co-main event on this card, but we get this as a 5-round co-main event. Um, and that's another interesting sort of level to it is that Chandler has more experience in the 5-round fights, but at the same time, he's also shown to have a questionable gas tank, being that he shows so much explosion in those first 2 to 3 rounds. Um, so I'm interested to see with the 5-round pace, if it gets there, of course. If it gets into those later rounds, who that'll favor. That's what I'm really interested to see.
Yeah. Um, Again, yeah, super excited for this fight. Cannot wait. Also announced on the same card, the UFC debut of Patricio Pitbull. We're not gonna Pitbull versus Yair Rodriguez, welcoming him to the UFC. I don't know about you, but I mean, I'm kind of I don't know. A lot of people do this. MVP did this. Michael Chandler kind of did this. Like they're coming over like at the end of their career. Like yes, Pitbull is a 3 division champ. He actually beat Michael Chandler.
And yeah, he
Um,
does have a win over Chandler and Bellator.
he has a win over Chandler to beat champ, but he's 37, and this is his first fight in the UFC. He really doesn't have a lot of time. And I don't even know if he could. I mean, again, he's really good. We've seen he's 3 division champ, not done many times in combat sports. But Yair Rodriguez is going to be a real test, man. I mean, like UFC is way different than these other organizations. We saw that with Kai Sakura and Alexander Pantoja. So I mean, Yair Rodriguez was a interim champ at one point. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So Pitbull was a 2 division champion. He fell short of becoming the 3 division champion.
Oh, I thought he was 3. I thought he won.
No, it was he fell short of it. He attempted to, but he did not beat Sergio Pettis in June of 2023. So just had to get that out there real quick. But yeah, I completely agree. With Pitbull coming in at age 37, coming in at 145 against Yair, who is a main staple of this division, someone who's been one of the guys for years now. He's an interim champion a few years ago, has fought for the belt, has fought Max Holloway. He's gone through the gauntlet at 145 essentially, and um, coming off of a little bit of a layoff himself after his loss to Brian Ortega, I think he's going to be reinvigorated. Being on a Miami card, I think he's going to have some extra juice to him, and I'm really interested to see how Pitbull deals with someone like Yair because he really is hard to prepare for. I mean, Pitbull's probably never seen someone who is as versatile and creative of a striker as Yair is, and someone who's really good with the kicks. I mean, you watch Yair Rodriguez fight, and he's throwing out leg kicks, teep kicks, body kicks like they're jabs. So I'm really interested to see how Pitbull does, how he adjusts to the big stage. I mean, this is the big show now. There's nowhere higher else to go. You're debuting as the third fight down on a main card of a pay-per-view in Miami. It's gonna be a big spot for him. So I'm excited to see how Pitbull does and potentially where he goes. I mean, like you said, he's fought in multiple divisions. Um, he's been talking a little bit of trash towards Chandler. Um, now that he's in the UFC, so let's say things. I mean, either way, whether they go well or not at 45, um, who knows? We could see a Chandler fight with Pitbull in the future, a rematch in a new organization. But yeah, really interested to see how he transitions into the UFC against someone as unique as Yair Rodriguez.
Yeah, I'm excited. Again, always good to see a newcomer come. Maybe add some to the division, but again, he's just coming in so late. We'll just have to see. Another fight I kind of wanted to just mention on that got announced.
Of course,
Carlos
fighting nerds.
Carlos Prates is back, man.
Yeah,
super
super
excited.
excited.
He's got the Jeff Neal test coming up. See if he's the real deal or not. Spoiler alert, I think he is.
Spoiler alert, that's crazy.
Sorry, Jeff Neal.
I think this is the perfect matchup for him, though. I mean, Prates is a little bit lower in the rankings. Jeff Neal's right there. I believe number 10. And like you said, it's the Jeff Neal test. This is where a lot of the younger guys see if they're legit in this 170-pound division. Shavkat went through the test, and Jeff Neal had his moments in that Shavkat fight, if you remember. And now Prates has that assignment, and I think this is on this Miami card. There could not be a better booking for someone like Carlos Prates, who gained so much momentum this past year with the fight streak that he went on, with the winning streak that he went on, and yeah, I think the UFC was very careful and very methodical about putting him on a main card of a giant card like this in Miami. I cannot wait for this. I think this is the perfect main card fight for this Miami card.
Yeah, always excited to see the Fighting Nerds fight. We saw Gene Silva do it. Now we just no Rufio's fighting. He's fighting a couple days, actually. Right? He's on 314. Rufio versus King Green, right?
That's on
That's 313, right?
That's 313. The Alexa.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. Yeah,
yeah.
So all we need is a Kyle Brahio
and that's probably the biggest domino out of them all, because he's right up there in the middleweight division.
He's right there, man. So yeah, excited to see what the Fighting Nerds do. I mean, they got plot armor, man, so kind of hard to see these guys losing. Yeah, we got some other good fights on this card. Oof. Dan Ige, Sean Woodson, Reyes, and Krylov. So,
shout out Dan Ige.
Our boy is back. Ige, he's back. Oh yeah, and this fight, Chase MF and Hooper, Charles DuBronx 2.0 versus Jim Miller. This is gonna be pretty fire. So yeah, pretty excited for this card all around. But the next one that got announced, let's see here, that I was low-key more excited for, because I'm a big fan of this fellow right here. Oh, so yes, Jack Della Maddalena is out of the fight with Leon Edwards for the fight night in London. That's being replaced with Sean Brady versus Leon Edwards. So, Leon Edwards, you can thank the UFC matchmakers for saving you from being knocked out in front of everyone. Shavkat was too scared to fight Belal Muhammad, and so they called the real.
That's not true.
The real number one contender at welterweight, Jack Della Maddalena, man. I'm so ready. We will be winning the belt. Love Belal Muhammad, but your time's up, buddy. Would have loved to see him fraud check Shavkat, but JDM's here.
So, for those who don't remember, the only reason that you're so excited about JDM getting this shot is because you predicted him to become champion at the beginning of the year. So this is it. This is it for you, because I predicted that at the end of the year, Belal Muhammad would stay the champion. So
yeah,
the winner of this fight, this is really you versus me at this point.
It is. Who's better at predictions?
But no, in all seriousness, I like what the UFC did here. It wouldn't have made sense to put anyone else in for the title shot. Leon already lost. Sean Brady still needs another win. Usman, we don't know what's going on with Usman, except for the Pound for Pound podcast.
Ian Gary is.
Ian Gary just fought Shavkat. It wouldn't make sense to put him in against Belal. Shavkat is reportedly injured.
Reportedly. reportedly.
Why are you hating on Shavkat?
Because he's, bro, you know why, bro. He's such an aura merchant, bro. I'm telling you right now, if his name was Jim Stevens, bro, nobody would actually care about this guy. I promise you.
What does that even mean?
Dude, he literally, people don't like him because he has aura, bro. Like to tell you, JDM is the real #1 contender at welterweight. Look at the bro, bro, Shavkat got a fucking title shot because he subbed Wonder Boy. What? No, who the what? Buckley knocked Wonder Boy out faster than Shavkat subbed him.
JDM was hurt during that though.
JDM, he had that crazy fight with Gilbert Burns. Haven't seen him since then. I mean, and he's beat. I don't know. He's beat good guys.
No,
I mean,
JDM is 100. JDM was 100% deserving of this shot. Like I said, I'm glad the UFC did what they did here. I'm glad that Sean Brady, even though it is on short notice, which somewhat sucks, that he's getting an opportunity against one of the bona fide guys of the 170 division, and Leon, a former champion, going into his hometown trying to play spoiler, and now with
Bilal's
Jack
kids are
Della.
fighting each other. Sad to
Now with
see.
Jack Della coming in to fight Bilal, I think if you're someone that's rooting for Jack Della, I think even though the performance against Gilbert Burns ended up really well for him and he ended up getting the knockout, it was a comeback performance. Early on in that Gilbert fight, he was getting taken down kind of at ease and he was showing some limitations on the ground. And I think that's a problem if you are fighting Bilal Muhammad because Bilal Muhammad is a better wrestler than Gilbert Burns. I think he is better top pressure than Gilbert Burns. The grappling is different, obviously. Burns is more of a jiu-jitsu specialist. Muhammad more of a wrestler, obviously. But I think if you're Jack Della, you got to be sprawling for your life in this camp and in this fight because if you don't, then Bilal really might maul him somewhat like he did Leon. And I think stylistically, just on paper, if you're looking at this matchup, it's one of the matchups that a lot of people would say that favors Bilal the most out of the guys that would be contending for the title in this division. So I think it is an uphill climb for Jack Della. I do think he has the advantage on the feet. But I also said that about Leon Edwards, and Leon Edwards got outstruck by Bilal, and that's not even a question.
Well, I offer you this. I come to you with this, and this should come as a shocker, but Jack Della Maddalena is not Leon Edwards. All right, he'll win a UFC fight. Jack Della Maddalena is better than Leon Edwards. He's not just gonna sit there and take it. Again, yeah, I know Bilal Muhammad is on a different level of grappling and wrestling. The striking, the grappling, the wrestling. He's better at all of it. But I don't know. I've seen Jack Della Maddalena. I think he can get it done on the feet. And Bilal Muhammad is nowhere near this boxing level as JDM. JDM is a at least top 3 boxer in the UFC right now. And yeah, man, I'm just super hyped to see him get his so deserving title shot that he deserves it, man. He deserved it over Shavkat. And now he's finally getting it. And then he'll get fraud check Shavkat. And also, my prediction, again, coming true. And the one fight that I had on my list I wanted to see, the girl, Manny Farrow. Canada, you're lucky because this was almost your main event. But boys stepped up. But yeah, shout out Manny Farrow. She gets to fight in Canada. French backgrounds and roots there.
Oh, she's gonna get such a lot. She might get the loudest pop out of that crowd during the whole event. I mean, that French crowd is gonna show up and show out for Manon Fiorot. And this is the fight that had to happen at 125. I know everyone was talking about Zhang Weili moving up the division and potentially doing away with strawweight, seeing what happened there, but Manon Fiorot has been waiting for this. She has sat out on the sidelines for a little while, and this is undoubtedly the most what had to happen at 125. And for Shevchenko, I mean, it's good to see her against fresh blood coming off of a 3 fights in a row rivalry with Alexa Grasso that went back and forth. And it's going to be really interesting to see. I don't hate the betting line with Manon Fior being a slight favorite. It's pretty much a pick 'em line. But it's gonna be really interesting to see how Valentina approaches this, how Fior approaches on the feet, how she defends some wrestling, because I think Valentina will wrestle a decent bit in this fight. I think she will try to show off the grappling a little bit like she did in that third Grasso fight in the Sphere, just kind of having that top control and not wanting to mess around too much on the feet. And something that a lot of people may like skip over just because Mansour has been coming up in the division and this is her first title fight. She's 35 years old. She's only 1 year younger than Valentina coming in and getting her first title shot. So I'm interested to see how the experience, the 5-round experience plays out and how Valentina will use that.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited. Like I said, this was on my list of fights I wanted to see because I knew it had to happen. She deserved it. I'm so glad they gave it to her. You already know I'm favoriting, even though, like you said, look at the lines. I mean, it's pretty much right there, even Steven. So yeah, I'm super excited. Look at this. Look at her down here, bro. She's probably like, oh, yeah.
Right under.
She's probably like, oh yeah, I'm fighting the winner. Spoiler: the winner of this will fight Zhang Weili.
Potentially, I mean, with Dana, we actually need to talk about that as well. With Dana potentially talking about how there had been rumors coming out from Diego Lopez's camp, and Dana talked about it a little bit, but didn't go in too much into specifics. Talking about Ilya vacating his 45-pound belt, that double champs may not be a thing in the future, and we'll see how it happens. Dana kind of said that if someone made their run and has done enough and is able to defend both, which that's the key words, is able to defend both, then he'll allow people to do it. But it's just up to the UFC to see if they'll actually realistically envision some of these fighters being able to defend both, because we really haven't seen it too much.
We've only seen it twice.
Yeah.
Amanda Nunes did it and DC did it. And there's the only two people that have been able to defend it twice. I feel like Zhang Weili could defend it. She could defend both. And then also on this card, Mike Malott is back.
Had to happen in Canada. Interested to see Michael Morales getting Gilbert Burns.
Gilbert Burns, he did a lot for the UFC, but this is God. Welcome to the GFL, buddy.
No, don't do that to Don't do that to our boy Gilbert.
I like Gilbert Burns, but I mean, come on, man. Look at.
I think Gilbert will have the advantage on the feet here. I think the grappling is going to be pretty interesting to see how they can scramble around. But I mean, I still think Gilbert's going to have some pop in his hands. I mean, there's a big age difference, 13-year gap, which is pretty crazy to see. But yeah, I mean, it's the classic veteran versus prospect. So I'm interested to see how Morales will handle it.
Yeah, but I think that's pretty much it for this card that worth talking about.
Yeah, 1,000%. So huge announcements coming from Dana this past week. A lot of moving pieces, vacated titles. So super interested to see how it all plays out. We talked about it. Y'all know how we feel. Y'all know how we think it'll play out. So next episode, we'll talk about the ever exciting Manel Cape card, and then also preview.
Oh yeah.
Preview UFC 313.
The real hardcores if you're not a casual, you will be watching UFC Apex, Manel Cap versus Asuyama Baev. The real hardcores are hyped for the Cody Brundage co-main event. Oh yeah, look at this. We're so ready. Got to fight. Oh yeah, we're ready. We are ready.
Yep. Next episode, we'll break all that down and talk a little bit about UFC 313 before we actually give our actual predictions. So until then, see y'all.